Welcome to the Ozone. I'm Robin Termingham of the Olderhood Group, and my guest today is Olderhood Senior Advisor Amoti Nyabongo. Today we're talking about when your journey takes a detour. Welcome, Amoti.
Hi, Robin. Glad to be here.
Well, I think we should tell everybody right up front that you want to settle in and get comfortable to listen to this because we're going to break all the rules today. And we're going to do something that at Olderhood we don't usually do. We're going to talk about a very personal topic. And this is going to be, I'm going to say, a little bit of a tough conversation for some of you to watch. But this is a conversation that everybody needs to hear. So, Amoti, how would you like to start this conversation with everybody?
You're basically trucking along through life and something happens.
Mm-hmm.
Life always has things happening. That's how life is here on planet Earth. Something's always going on, good, bad, or indifferent. And for the most part, most people experience happenings that are manageable. But every now and then something comes along and says, whoa, what's this? This past March, I was diagnosed with multiple myeloma. And I'll be honest, at the tender age of 64, this is the first real health concern that I've ever had, aside from a sniffly nose from a cold, a sprained ankle playing softball, or maybe the one-off rare headache that was gone within 3 hours. Never took medication for anything. Don't suffer from hypertension, high blood pressure. I'm okay. Did my annual physicals. Doctor says you're good. What happens is I had an auto accident, and minor accident. When I say minor, minor. But I wound up getting injured, but the airbags didn't pop.
Wow.
I fractured my breastbone, my sternum, and I had my seatbelt fastened, so I didn't hit the steering wheel, but none of the airbags popped, which meant that the speed I was going wasn't that significant. The doctors all scratching their head. How's this? How's this? One thing led to another. They do a biopsy. Mr. Nyabongo, we got good news and we got bad news. Which do you want? I said, give me the bad news so we can end on a high note. Okay. So they tell me, I'll be honest, I cried for about 2 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized, wait a minute, hold it. I've had members of my family deal with this. They'll get a prognosis. Oh, you only have 6 months. And 10 years later, they're still around. I jokingly say one of the reasons why people live so long on my mother's side of the family, or both sides of the family, is when death comes knocking at their door, they're never home because they're out doing things. They're out busy. So right then and there, I made up my mind. You know what? I may have to adjust my lifestyle just a tad bit, but I'm going to keep on doing what I came here to do. The interesting thing about it is I was going to be thrown off the deep end because I had an accident with the car. So I didn't have the use of the car. And I'm still dealing with the discomfort of healing from my chest. So long story short, I'm walking, I'm catching the bus, I'm catching rides with people. So that's kind of narrowing my availability to be mobile, which for me is a challenge because I like to go and I'm going to go. So dealing with that, slowly but surely, things are falling into place. Okay. So now we have to get a second opinion. We go overseas and they say, okay, we can do this. This is not a problem. We're going to do a stem cell transplant. And we're going to do it next year. Okay, fine. When do you want to do the harvesting? Because they're taking my cells and then they're going to give them back to me. So I come up to get a harvest last month. And they said, well, we don't have enough. The surgeon wants to have enough to do 2 transplants. I said, okay, fine. Little did I know that the numbers that I had were increasing, and they decided instead of doing it next summer, they're going to do it this December. Another change. not necessarily a detour, but it's still on the main detour. Okay. So I said, you know what? Let me get it over with. I talked with the social worker at the hospital, and she's checking to make sure that my attitude is good. And it's kind of interesting because most times I'm usually the one asking the questions about if somebody's attitude is good. So we had a nice little conversation. And she realized, okay, you're paying attention to the road signs. And I'm going to put a point right there. Paying attention to the road signs, paying attention to your routine. What are the things that you love to do? What are the things that you normally do in your regular lifestyle? If you find yourself missing out on doing these things, or you notice that, hey, I haven't done that in a while, you may want to take a deeper look into what's going on. So for me, I play music. I play the bass guitar. And I realized that I hadn't touched the guitar in about 2 to 3 weeks. So that was a problem because I touched my bass guitar, if not every day, every other day. And if I wasn't touching the guitar, playing the guitar, practicing the guitar, I was usually listening to music. Well, I still was listening to music, but I wasn't as enthusiastic about it. So that was the first sign.
This is very interesting because what I'm hearing repeatedly is how something that other people would have viewed as a bad thing, a problem, a catastrophe, has turned out to be a blessing for you. Starting right off with your car accident, which is a terrible experience for anybody. If you hadn't had the car accident, the key point is you might not have discovered that you had a bigger problem.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that you're bringing up the fact that you noticed that you were straying away from the thing that you love in life, which is music in your case. I always say you can't control what happens to you. You can only control your response to what happens to you. So there's a huge lesson, a huge piece of information for everybody in your realization of that and the way that you're handling that.
Yeah. And the real challenge is realizing that there's something going on and you have to be mindful of it. It's the kind of thing where, okay, the doctor may say something like, okay, you can't have any sugar. You got to cut sugar out. Okay, fine. And I use that because we have a conversation about that. But for example, you'll notice my teeth. Before I could get the treatment from the stem cells, I had to get all of my dental work done. And I'll be honest, that was a major hurdle because I love to smile. And so now I have all of 6 teeth in my head, and it's okay. It's okay. And here's why it's okay. 6 teeth are better than no teeth. I can still eat. And the flip side is if I had not gotten this done, I could have run into problems later on down the line when I start to heal with infection and possibly lose my jaw. So it's a matter of, okay, 6 teeth in my head, keep my jaw. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think one of the things that and to piggyback off of what you're saying about choices is the fact that even though my choices are a lot more focused now, I still have decisions and choices that I can make. Absolutely. Thus having some sort of control over which way I go and where I go.
So let me ask you a question. If you think of what I'm going to call old Amoti before all of these things started to happen, and new Amoti now that you're having this very unique journey, what is new Amoti learning about himself through all of this?
First off, and this is an excellent question. First off, the new Amoti realizes that every day that I wake up is another day to make a difference. Mm-hmm. Not just in my life, but in other people's lives. Second thing, I don't know who's watching me and being encouraged by my story and what I'm doing. The older Modi would still try and set an example, but it might not be as focused. Yeah, let me go get that cheeseburger. I'll have a second cheeseburger. Meanwhile, there might be somebody dealing with diabetes or some other issue. And they're like, wow, he's getting a second cheeseburger. I wish I could have. Yeah, no. Also, with the pandemic, I'm more conscious of people's proximity and how very naively they take things for granted. So, for example, in my situation, I'm immune compromised. Mm-hmm. So when I see 10 people jump on the elevator, I catch the next one. In fact, I had a conversation with a young lady, because she's young in attitude. I know she's at least 10, 15 years older than me, but we were both standing in the elevator bank because every elevator that came, there were people there. And she's like, I'm not getting on. I said, no, I understand. I'm not getting on either because I don't know what their mindset is. I don't mind being in an elevator with one person. Two is pushing it. And what I do when I get on, I just tuck myself in the corner and then I get off at my stop and that's it. But I'll see people come and mask below their nose or mask around their chin. And what they don't realize, they're thinking so much, okay, it's fresh air, it's this, it's that. They're missing the point. The purpose of the mask is to keep you, the individual, from breathing out whatever might be contagious to somebody else. And you don't know who might be a cancer survivor or maybe going through cancer or some other situation that has compromised their immune system. And I guess it comes down to, we need to be more mindful of taking care of each other.
That's an excellent point because, as I've said repeatedly through all of this, we are all in this together. Yep. This is a global situation, and the only way forward is if we help each other.
Exactly.
So how do you continue to wake up in the morning and find things that you are looking forward to with some of the more challenging things that you're experiencing at the moment?
Well, first off, I've been blessed with a very unique sense of adventure. My mother, and I get it from my mother was a music teacher. And whenever she sat down with a new student, didn't matter what age they were, it was the attitude of, let's see what the possibilities are. Mm-hmm. Okay, we know that we're here in front of the piano. And if we press middle C, that'll give us a tone. And if we do it rhythmically, it'll give us some sort of maybe a melody or maybe an idea to spread out. But if we never touch middle C and we just sit here, nothing's going to happen. So we look for the opportunities to make things happen for a good purpose. And that's kind of how I approach the day. I usually have something that I have to do that is independent of my personal medical care and condition. So, I mean, the whole business of taking the meds and doing a little exercise and getting out, that's all part and parcel of every day now. Mm-hmm. But for example, I may decide that, okay, I'm going to study some music, or maybe I'm going to try and find a new song, or maybe I need to call an old friend, or maybe I need to just write a piece. I mean, you and I have a history of writing and minor journalism. You're a little bit further down the road than me, but that's still part of how I face the day, the adventure of the day. And I tell certain folks, I've told certain folks, I'm not looking to hold a pity party. That's the next person, not me. I have too many things to do. One of which is legacy. When I'm gone 10 years, from transitioning? What will people
or
say?
20 or
Well,
30.
no. When I'm saying 10 years after I've departed this earthly plane,
Okay.
what will people say? You know, will people be grateful for the contributions that I've made or the collaborations that I've worked with other people? You know, I mean, at this point right now in my age, yeah, there's certain things that I want personally, but one of the greatest joys I've found is giving to others. And so many people are caught up in their own lifestyles and their own problems that they very rarely leave themselves open to be the answer to somebody else's prayer. And I'll give you a perfect example of this.
Oh, I love how you just said that, by the way.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I was talking with a colleague, and this is going back to June. And I was just sharing with him, you know, some of the things that I was going through, because I haven't told everybody what my situation is. First of all, because it's not for everybody. That's the first thing. People don't know how to process bad news. It's not really my concern of how they handle the news that I give them, but it's to the point where I know who I can tell and I know who I can share it with. So what happens, I'm sharing with this gentleman and I'm just telling him, you know, I started to have this feeling, this sensation, blah, 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 blah. Went and got this checked out and, you know, the auto accident and blah, 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 blah. He says, well, I've experienced that too. I said, well, you know what? Why don't you just go get checked out? He says, well, I got some vacation time coming up and my daughter's a nurse. I said, okay, fine, cool. So this was in June and he was supposed to be back in July. Now, we missed each other in July because I had to come to get a consultation, which in this world of COVID, you would think they would do a video, but no, they wanted me to come to the hospital. Okay, fine. So we did that. So when I go back to work, he's not there. So I'm thinking I missed him. I'm thinking he's out and about doing his thing. 2 weeks ago, I'm in the oncology department. And who do I see walking through to get his injection?
Well, that's very powerful.
Being the answer to somebody's prayer is not the kind of thing that you can see it right in front of you, because you have to live your life. You have to be open and available to the what I call adventure. Nobody's going to come knocking on your door and say, hey, can you be the answer to my prayer? No, that's not going to happen. And if you never leave your comfort zone, you will never be the answer to somebody's prayer, because that's where prayers are met, outside the comfort zone. If people are in their comfort zone, chances are they're not praying. They're not seeking something because they're comfortable.
This is an incredibly powerful message that you're sharing with everybody. And I to the point, I want to make sure that I've understood so that we can make sure everybody does. What you're telling me basically is if you're open to being able and available to helping somebody else, that you can help them without having any idea what they need or exactly what to say. It just comes forth.
Exactly. And, you know, wow. I was doing some shopping, preparing my bubble, and my former life, I was in law enforcement. Well, in my condition, I can't do anything anymore. When I say anything, I'm like physical activity. Okay, I can swim, I can ride a bicycle, fine. Kung Fu lessons, that's out of the picture.
No more skydiving.
No more skydiving. Yeah, you know, that kind of thing. So while I still have that sense of adventure, my physical adventures are coming to a close. So I'm in a store. I'm not going to mention the name of the store because everybody knows it. And I finished making my purchase, but I realized that I have to catch a cab home because I got too much stuff with me to take on the train. So I'm walking to the aisle where I'm going to make the turn to go to the exit. And one thing I'll tell you, if you work in law enforcement, you learn to pay attention to the behavior. You learn to watch people. And if you see everybody looking in one direction, like a deer in the headlamps, you know something's going on around the corner.
Right.
So I stopped because I don't want to see what's going on around the corner. Because I know that it's something that could affect me. Not negatively, not positively, but I know it's something that's going to affect me. So I stopped and I'm waiting. So I don't hear anything. I said, okay, it must be over. Whatever they're looking at, it must be over. So as I'm pushing the cart and I turn the corner, I hear the two employees say, "Oh, snap." And I hear, boom. And I'm looking, and there's a cop fighting with a homeless man.
Oh, wow.
And the cop is losing.
Oh, dear.
And people are like, isn't anybody going to help him? Now, I can't put the dope fiend chokehold on him. I can't do the kung fu anymore. I can't say, please don't move. No, can't do that. Not trying to go there. And there were at least 50 to 60 people there just standing around with their phones, making video and watching. So I'm like, I can't walk past this. Can't. So I go over it, and this is what I'm talking about, being available. So the guy is on top of the cop. So I slap him on his hip. I'm like, yo, man, let him go, let him go, let him go. And you know what's funny? I wasn't screaming at him. I'm just like how I'm saying, yo, man, let him go. Just like I'm saying it just now. Guess what? He lets him go.
Wow.
I wasn't prepared for that. But you know what? In that moment, maybe that's all I was supposed to do, was to tell him to let him go. Within 20 seconds, the rest of the troops arrived. I pushed my cart out to go to try and catch a cab. And I haven't shared this with my wife yet because she's like, you can't do that. You can't. But you know what?
You know, she's going to have a reaction, I would agree.
Exactly. But here's the thing. And it's not about being Superman, here I come to save the day. No, somebody needed help. And the funny thing about it is that the officer, I don't think the officer even knew what I had done. It had a happy ending. Nobody was injured. Nobody got killed. You know, they did what they had to do.
Yeah.
And I eased on down the road. So when I say being available, you have to be available with the gifts that you have.
I think the moral of your story is that you have to choose wisely, because in your particular unique situation, you were, I'm going to say, fully qualified to understand how to handle that situation and how to handle it in a way that was, I'm going to say, appropriate and safe for you.
Right.
What's remarkable is that you didn't hesitate to step in when you knew everything inside you said, I am able to help in a way that will have a positive outcome. I think if I can add to this, what I would say about an experience like that is to not let your personal fear, your personal indifference prevent you from assisting in a situation. Now, hopefully, we're not inspiring people who aren't qualified to take on life and death situations inappropriately.
Exactly.
But you're right. But you never know what it's going to be that's going to be a small thing for you and a huge difference for everyone else involved. And when that moment comes, you know, that's I think that's maybe where faith takes over, and you have to have some belief in yourself and some faith in a positive outcome being possible.
You are so right, Robin. And it's for the past couple of days I've been rewinding that scene in my head, because I'm asking myself, it had a happy outcome. Could I have done more? Should I have done more? And if I could have done more, what would the more be? what would that look like? I'm not going to beat myself up over it because, first of all, episodes like that are a one-off. When I say they're a one-off,
let's hope so.
Well, yeah, no. I mean, the whole thing is that it's been a while since I've done shopping during the holiday season. I will say this though, and we're talking about lessons that I've learned, the new Amoti. And this is one that I've shared with you. There are people in societies who cannot care for themselves. They're vulnerable, whether it be physically vulnerable or mentally vulnerable or both. Now, I've always been cognizant of people who can't do for themselves, but it's very rare. And now I'm one of those people that my abilities to do for myself have become diminished. You know, how hard is it to walk past somebody, or rather, how easy is it to just, you see somebody in a wheelchair, sir, ma'am, are you okay? Do you need any assistance?
You know, this brings up a very interesting point, because essentially what you're saying here is we all live in the world that functions at the minimum level that we're all willing to accept.
Mm-hmm.
And when we choose to be willing to accept a world in which people are left by the wayside,
Mm-hmm.
in which no one else is our problem, no one else is our responsibility. It's all about me,
Mm-hmm.
and what can I get, and I'm the only one that matters. When that's what we're all choosing as
Mm-hmm.
the minimum level of acceptance, regrettably, that's what we're all experiencing as a collective.
Mm-hmm. And it doesn't set a proper example for betterment going forward, because our children, our youth, they don't do as we say, they do as we do, you know. And like, for example, my son is forever saying, Dad, you're going to go inside, you're going to have a conversation, you're going to be in there for about a half an hour, 45 minutes, and you're only going for a bottle of water. I'm like, but yeah, that's what we do. I mean, that's how you exchange, that's how you learn. That's where opportunity is. That's where you get to help out your fellow man. If you just walk in and walk out, you don't know. You'll never know. So yeah. Also being a person in the situation of cancer, I see how people come into the facility. Some folks come in bright and chipper, and other folks come in because they've had a challenging day or a challenging evening. And I try and maintain a positive outlook, no matter what they look like. I always try and say good morning, good afternoon, good evening. And it's the kind of thing where I do mean it sincerely, because I don't know how it may come back at me. And I'm not really worried about how it comes back to me, because I have enough to give. I can say good morning, how are you, till midnight. And that doesn't take anything away from me. It's sort of like a candle. If I have a candle, I can light 1,000 candles with my candle. But me lighting 1,000 or 2,000 or 10,000 candles does not diminish the light of my candle.
Amoti, that's incredibly well said. And maybe that's a good way for us to wrap up this conversation.
Not a problem, Robin. Not a problem.
I think it's powerful in almost an overwhelming way to help people realize that cancer is something that is happening to you, but it is not what defines you.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. We look forward to another video in which you share more of your journey with us.
Sure. Anytime, Robin.
Thank you so much, Amoti.
You're welcome.
If you have a comment or a question about this video, you can reach out to us at Bill, that's BILL, at olderhood.com. And we look forward to chatting with you again soon. Take care, everyone.